Buffalo, January 22nd, 1871. Dear Sir, please do not publish the note I sent you the other day about High Slocum's plagiarism entitled Three Aces. It is not important enough for such a long paragraph. Webb writes me that he has put in a paragraph about it too, and I have requested him to suppress it. If you would simply state in a line and a half under literary notes that you mistook one High Slocum, no, it was one Carl Byng, I perceive, Carl Byng for Mark Twain, and that it was the former who wrote the plagiarism entitled Three Aces, I think that would do a fair justice without any unseemly display. But it is hard to be accused of plagiarism, a crime I never have committed in my life. Yours truly, Mark Twain. 472 Delaware Street, Buffalo, January 28. Dear Mr. Aldrich, no, indeed, don't take back the apology. Hang it, I don't want to abuse a man's civility merely because he gives me the chance. I hear a good deal about doing things on the spur of the moment. I invariably regret the things I do on the spur of the moment. That disclaimer of mine was a case in point. I am ashamed every time I think of my bursting out before an unconcerned public with that bombastic powwow about burning publishers' letters and all that sort of imbecility, and about my not being an imitator, etc. Who would find out that I am a natural fool if I kept always cool and never let nature come to the surface? Nobody. But I did hate to be accused of plagiarizing Bret Harte, who trimmed and trained and schooled me patiently until he changed me from an awkward utterer of coarse grotesquenesses to a writer of paragraphs and chapters that have found a certain favor in the eyes of even some of the very decentest people in the land. And this grateful remembrance of mine ought to be worth its face, seeing that Bret broke our long friendship a year ago, without any cause or provocation that I am aware of. Well, it is funny, the reminiscences that glare out from murky corners of one's memory now and then without warning. Just at this moment, a picture flits before me. Scene: private room in Barnum's Restaurant, Virginia, Nevada. Present: Artemus Ward, Joseph T. Goodman, editor and proprietor, Daily Enterprise, and Dan DeQuille, and myself, reporters for same. Remnants of the feast thin and scattering, but such tautology and repetition of empty bottles everywhere visible as to be offensive to the sensitive eye. Time 2:30 a.m. Artemus thickly reciting a poem about a certain infant you wot of, and interrupting himself and being interrupted every few lines by poundings of the table and shouts of "Splendid" by Shortstop. Finally, a long, vociferous, poundiferous, and vitreous jingling of applause announces the conclusion, and then Artemus: "Let every man that loves his fellow man and appreciates a poet that loves his fellow man stand up. Stand up and drink health and long life to Thomas Bailey Aldrich, and drink it standing." On all hands, fervent, enthusiastic, and sincerely honest attempts to comply. Then Artemus: "Well, consider it standing, and drink it just as ye are." Which was done. You must excuse all this stuff from a stranger for the present, and when I see you I will apologize in full. Do you know the prettiest fancy and the neatest that ever shot through Harte's brain? It was this. When they were trying to decide upon a vignette for the cover of the Overland, a grizzly bear of the arms of the state of California was chosen. No, brass carved him, and the page was printed with him in it, looking thus. As a bear, he was a success. He was a good bear, but then it was objected that he was an objectless bear, a bear that meant nothing in particular, signified nothing, simply stood there snarling over his shoulder at nothing, and was painfully and manifestly a boorish and ill-natured intruder upon the fair page. All hands said that. None were satisfied. They hated badly to give him up, and yet they hated as much to have him there, when there was no paint to him. But presently Hart took a pencil and drew these two simple lines under his feet, and behold, he was a magnificent success. The ancient symbol of California savagery snarling at the approaching type of high and progressive civilization, the first overland locomotive. I just think that was nothing less than inspiration itself. Once more, I apologize, and this time I do it standing. Yours truly, Samuel L. Clemens.